Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Coffee and Geography Coffee House for another Espresso and Geography. And returning to the Geography Coffee House is the wonderful Dave Wynn. Good to see you again, Dave.
Hi, Kit. Thanks very much for having me on again. Great to see
Yeah,
you.
it's been a while since you've popped into the coffee house, so it's good. It's good to see you come through that door here. But we've got something really interesting to talk about, folks, because as you know, Espresso and Geography, just 15-minute current affairs. And so, Dave, I've brought you on because of your passion for these kind of topics. And people, please listen to Dave's podcast, full podcast interview from before, because we talk about it quite a lot. Because today, the 20th of May, 2025, is the UK's Overshoot Days. So the mark is now. We have 15 minutes to talk about it, Dave. Dave, what
Hey.
is Overshoot Day and why should we really care about it?
Well, it's the day when we've used up the equivalent of a year's worth of resources for the planet. And what it means is, while we haven't run out of resources like here and now, it means that we're basically taking resources away from the future, essentially, and taking away from our future selves and future generations. So the whole concept of Overshoot Day is a way of expressing to people exactly how much we're over consuming, essentially, and using up everything that the earth has to give us, and showing that we're not living in anywhere near a sustainable way, um,
Mm.
and so effectively encouraging us to think very, very hard about how we live and how we move to a new model of being, which doesn't steal from the future, essentially.
Mm. Well, yeah, I mean, there's different. You've done that brilliantly. There are different sort of ways to look at it. It's like to say, if you have a year's worth of resources to live sustainably, this is the date that you've used your year's resources up by. Is another way of looking at it. So yeah, the UK's folks is May the 20th, and so from this point onwards for the rest of the year, basically, if everyone in the world lived like us on average in the United Kingdom, we're now running a deficit, basically. So, if you want another analogy, it's like think of it like a bank account. It's like we've used a year's worth of wages. We've all spent it now. Now everything from this point onwards, we're in debt. So this is not sustainable. So this is the day we've gone into debt. So um, I mean, clearly this is not sustainable. I mean, so Dave, if we look at some of these countries on this list, and so the earliest
Yeah,
one is February the 6th, Qatar. I mean,
yeah,
that's huge. I mean, it's yeah, if everyone in the world lived like everyone in Qatar, it'd be February the 6th. And then quite interesting, I did not know this, but apparently the country which is doing the best is Uruguay with December the 17th, which is really
yeah.
interesting.
And another thing worth noting is that we're very, very close to China in terms of consumption as well.
Right. Yeah, so China, where is trying to
China's literally
find where
right next to the
China is.
United Kingdom
Oh yeah,
underneath.
that's yeah, yeah. China and Spain. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah,
it's tiny on my screen. Yeah, so May the 25th, China and Spain. So, all for all of these detractors who turn around and say, "Oh, well, it's all China, it's all China, it's all China." Well, actually,
yeah,
they haven't. They're not in debt just yet. They're 3 days away, but they're not in debt just yet.
yeah.
So, is there anything, Dave, that you feel? What have you ever used this as a communication tool, perhaps, or as a kind of analogy for when you do your work when it comes to climate change and sustainability?
Actually, I haven't, and I probably should, because it's a really, really effective tool. No, I've more focused on the positive. So I've gone down the Professor Hayhoe route in terms of kind of like focusing on talking about it and relating to people and how they live, and talking about kind of like positive things. However, this is a really kind of effective eye opener, isn't it? So I probably should incorporate it into anything that I do, whether it's going to be, an island course or face-to-face training, or something that we communicate company wide.
Mm,
Yeah, the I think one of the most challenging things about this is to kind of get people to understand why and how they're over consuming, and also where does the responsibility lie as well, because there's two ways. There's a couple of ways of looking at this. Well, probably more than a couple of ways of looking at this. The first is, are we as individuals personally responsible? Should we be cutting down on I don't know, whatever it might be, cutting down on the amount of beef that we're eating, or cutting down how often we drive a car, or how many times we fly in a plane? Should we be making sure that all of our fruit doesn't come wrapped in plastic and all the rest? However, that does remind me of the tool that BP put out, the carbon tracker, which was a very, very neat way of moving the responsibility from the source onto the consumer. And really, perhaps
Yes.
what we should be looking at is the source of this consumption, which, to my mind, would be anyone who's making money from consumption. They're pushing consumption and they're encouraging consumption to such an extent that we do it almost automatically because it's just become cultural, and I've been asking myself, how do we flip that? How do we actually move from that paradigm to another, so that we do consume in a sustainable manner and we do have an economy that doesn't completely devastate the planet? What do you think?
I think, yeah, I mean, bearing in mind, the job that I do, I have communicated something along the lines of like, we're in ecological debt, if you like, and we're using more resources, than the earth can provide. I've definitely used that a few times, but I think having a specific date and putting it into an analogy of a year is it makes it a lot more tangible for people. It makes it a lot more accessible for people. And also it kind of helps with the calculation. So if I go onto the calculation, folks, as we see it on the screen, for those who can't see it on the screen, I'll describe it to you. But it gives the example of how to calculate Switzerland's Overshoot Day, right? So, for example, Switzerland's 2025 Overshoot Day is based on data from the National Footprint and Biocapacity accounts. So, Switzerland's ecological footprint is 4.25 global hectares per person, right? Now, they've worked out with the research, the evidence that the global biocapacity, in other words, what we need to live with in order to be sustainable, so we're using the Earth's resources as sustainably as it can provide, is 1.48. 1.48 giga global hectares per person, right? So you can see that Switzerland are over that. So it says here, thus, in 2023, when they worked it out, then humanity would need 4.25 divided by 1.48, which is 2.87 Earths to support everyone like the Swiss. So when we convert that to 365 days, so 365 days times 1.48 divided by 4.25, that's 127th days. The 127th day of 2025 is May the 7th. So that's how they've calculated it. So it's actually really, really good. The thing I love about this, Dave, as well, is that it gives people the chance to actually look at the calculations. Actually, when you break the calculations down, it's actually not that complicated. There's no differential equations. There's nothing like that. There's no scientific algebra or anything like that. It literally is division and then multiplication. So it's a really, really good way of putting it. So
Yeah, I'd probably
yeah,
be
I've definitely
interested in
used the
digging.
two.
Sorry,
Go
go
ahead,
on.
Dave. Yeah. I was going to
Oh,
say that I've definitely done that before, where I've said it will be this many Earths, So I've used that language before, but not really converted it to a date.
yeah. I'd be interested in digging into, how they arrived at the 4.25, what they measure, and what will they measure for the UK? Is it things like, how much we eat, the waste we consume, how much carbon we chuck in the atmosphere, how much waste ends up in landfill? I'd be curious to see how they work out. Is it based on GDP? Is it based on imports and exports?
It's a
I would
great
imagine
question.
probably a whole bunch of those things and
Yeah.
more. Yeah. There was something else I was going to mention as well. Yeah. One of the things that occurs to me, you said, yes, I've used that whole. We've used up the equivalent of 4 Earths, per country, based on what we're burning, what we're using up, and so on. And one of the things that concerns me, that where I don't necessarily use that language, is it's can be quite alarming. And alarm is fine so long as it's attached to a call for action of some kind, or some kind of positive way
100%.
to move forward, whereas alarm on its own can just root people in fear and just root them on the spot where they just do nothing, or
Yes.
they stick their head back in the sand.
Yeah, totally 100% agree with you, which is why, these espresso and coffees, they're nestled within a season-long podcast about the Climate Ambassador Scheme, which is all action orientated and solution based, and working in collaboration. So this stuff here, folks, might be, as Dave rightly said, could be alarming, but the fortunate thing is that this is nestled within all of this hopeful action. So, folks, if you're coming to this podcast and this is the very first thing you're listening to, and you're like, "Whoa, this is a very alarming," it's like, listen to the other episodes, because and especially the one with the one with Dave. Was it last season or the season before that? Was really good. So, Dave, to answer your question, so this is from York University's Global Footprint Network. So this is where the calculations are based off. So I've just clicked on the UK, and and it's interesting that it's lagging behind here. So what it's got here, it says biocapacity per person. It's interesting that fluctuates, not much, but that fluctuates over time as well. It's as though maybe we have periods of time where the Earth is producing more than it is on other times, which kind of makes sense, I guess, with the way that nothing is linear when it comes to Earth systems. And then you've got ecological footprint per person. So you can see that's changing over time. And actually, the UK is actually, since 2008, has been getting better, quote unquote, better. That our ecological footprint has been decreasing. And then the calculation there, the difference in the calculation, you can see we're in deficit, at least by this graph. The latest is minus 2.6 global hectares. So, so it says, if I click learn more, will it actually give us, as you say, the inputs to that? I wonder, because that was a great question.
So this goes up to about 2020, doesn't it? Interestingly, I think we've kind of like plateaued. While I don't have those figures, what I did look at earlier is whether the date had changed in terms of our consumption. And 2021 was the 19th, all the way to 2023 was May the 19th. 2024, we actually did quite well, June 1st. So, well, I say well, better. And now we're back to May the 20th. So we've kind of like plateaued almost in terms of our where we're overshooting.
Yeah, so that's okay. Oh, so what's this? Earth overshoot days. So I found this. So the Wikipedia has how the global overshoot has changed. So if you go, to, I always say, folks, Wikipedia is a fantastic resource as long as you use it properly. So very quickly, because I know we're short on time, look at the number, the reference, check the reference and see if the reference is valid. If the reference is valid and it's represented properly in Wikipedia, you can trust it. So so here's the one for the whole of the Earth, and we can see that we have kind of plateaued a little bit there. So Earth as an average is around about the middle of, or mid, I can't quite tell what's that. It must be the middle of July at the moment. Yeah. So about 1970, we were as a planet living within our means, more or less.
Oh, right. Okay, that's what that means. Right.
Yeah.
The green is good, red is bad. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, green is good, red is bad. But yeah, absolutely. I think this is a fantastic thing to look at and to investigate, folks. Definitely find, so ecological footprint, world biocapacity. So if we had a little bit more time, Dave, we could explore that a little bit further about what exactly is meant by biocapacity and how and what are we. So what is it? Is it natural resources? Is it the minerals we're stripping out? Is it the burning of fossil fuels? The kind of raw materials of the earth that we're using. Is that what we're talking about here? The deforestation, that more
intensive
of
agriculture.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Intensive agriculture.
Could be a number of things,
Absolutely. Yeah. So very interesting. So we've got about a minute left, Dave. Have you got any final thoughts about today, May the 20th?
Yeah. I think that, I mentioned earlier that we need to go to the source, really, and going to the source means that we need our politicians to change, we need industry to change, we need our agriculture to change, we need our dietary habits to change, we need things to change in terms of how we approach just consuming generally. Even with the best of intentions, even myself, I'm terrible for over consuming things that I shouldn't. whenever I need something, I just hop on Amazon and buy it, and I'm very conscious I'm doing it. But there's no alternative yet, and I think we need one. We need a paradigm shift. We need a disruptor to come in and go, this is incorrect, but we've got a better way of doing it. Let's have a look at this, please. And we need that as quickly as possible. We need politicians to understand it. We need our industry to realize that constantly accruing capital is absolutely not working for us and will essentially be the end of our civilization unless we shift rapidly away from overconsumption.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that as well, Dave. What you said is that we're humans. We're fallible. We don't get it right. We're not trying to be like perfect saints because it's just not possible, especially in the systems that we have. And I can't remember who said it. It might have been Greta Thunberg herself. But it's not that we need people to have the perfect response. We need enough people to be imperfect but do something. If enough people, critical mass, are imperfect in their approach, things will happen.
Yeah, something like 5% of the population. Something I recall a figure is about 3 to 5% of the population suddenly change their ways. Then all of a sudden there'd be a domino effect, a cultural change. Yeah. So if we can just get 3 to 5% of the population to go, yes, this needs to change, then it will naturally change.
There you go.
That's
so we'll end on that hopeful. Yeah, we'll end on that hopeful tone and that empowering tone. So Dave, you're always welcome back in a coffee house at any time. So folks, if you want folks like myself and Dave to talk about anything, please do send us a little message on Blue Sky or LinkedIn or something like that. Just say, I think this topic will be great for an Espresso Geography. If it's climate related, we'll have Dave back coming because we've got a tab on for him for the coffee bar, that he's ringing up. So that's all good. He's welcome back anytime. So thanks again, Dave.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Kate. Great to see you again.